Welcome to the ROI Masterclass, the podcast where vision meets strategy and bold moves create measurable results. I'm Liat Siegel, interior designer and ROI strategist with 17 years of experience. I help businesses transform properties and ideas into high-performing assets. This show is specifically for real estate investors, hospitality operators, and boutique developers who aren't afraid to take risks, challenge the status quo, and demand a return on every decision they make. Each and every week, we talk with innovators and leaders across industries about the strategies and the insights and really all the unconventional thinking that turns potential into profit every single time. If you believe that smart design, decisive leadership, and strategic risk are the keys to real ROI, you're in the exact right place. Let's dive in. Meet Michele Malo, a dynamic leader who turned Briarwood Country Club from outdated and struggling into a vibrant, profitable community hub. With experience at Kraft, Kellogg's, and as an entrepreneur, Michele excels at strategic renovations that boost revenue, attract new members, and create lasting value. She's passionate about blending smart design, data-driven decisions, and member-focused experiences to deliver real ROI and transform hospitality spaces for the future. Thank you so much, Michele, for joining us. I'm so excited to have you and learn everything that the data tells us about renovations and why they matter so much.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. So thank you so much. And yeah, renovations, it's really the place to be because if you stand still, everyone else is going to pass you by. You really have to look at the marketplace and look at where you are as a business and understand like where is the white space? You know, what can we add? What can we do to enhance the experience for who's already there, but also to be attractive for those that we want to have come within our community as well.
Amazing. So tell us about how you got here. What's your background? What's your experience? And how did you get into what you're doing today?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in the hospitality industry for pretty close to 30 years now, even though I know I don't look a day over 25, but that's beside the point. But yeah, so I started off with Dunkin' Donuts. I would do their opening specialist. So talk about renovations. You would take some of the old models and then you would renovate into vibrant branding experiences for Dunkin' because it was known as this old rundown. You had a coffee counter, you had your regulars that would come in. But then what ended up happening is the evolution of coffee, as you know, like Starbucks, but Dunkin' Donuts really started to move along that path. And they started with that franchise group and really taking a look at what was the brand sending out to the marketplace and what was the space attracting. And what it was just attracting was nothing new. So how do we enhance not only the physical building itself to make it more useful for drive-throughs? I mean, I'm going way back to enhance with the drive-through situation. And also so it's more of a take and go so you can get more people through and just increase sales that way. So you're not just having people lingering at this dated coffee counter. But better than that, it's also about the product mix. So it's just taking that environment and then really taking a look at what coffee culture was black coffee, maybe some cream and sugar, to lattes and iced coffees and at the time culottes, and taking actual donuts out of the name and it's just Dunkin' to really realize what that could do. But then when you look from there, kind of moved on into the manufacturing space, so the Kraft and Kellogg's of the world, and really working with our different clients to prove how our products could enhance their experience. So menu testing with limited time offers, just try my product and let's do some different menu renovations, some branding to bring credibility to what they were doing in a nutshell. So worked on everything from Oreo through Oscar Mayer, all the way through Keebler and into Barilla Pasta, where we sold pasta to Maggiano's and all the big folks, the Olive Gardens and whatnot. So then 14 years in the entrepreneurial space, really taking all of that learning and helping entrepreneurs, restaurateurs figure out, you know, a lot of folks love to cook, but that doesn't make a restaurant. So you have to understand just the operations of front of house, the ambiance that you're creating within that space, and really try to help build a business model that's sustainable, but also really captures what you're trying to do in terms of a culture within your business. And that brought me all the way up through COVID, because as we know, everybody kind of struggled through that, and to Briarwood Country Club, where they brought me in to really transform their membership and their sales practice, because they were a member-owned country club that was on the verge of closing. And so they really had to take a look at what they were doing in terms of branding to bring in more folks. So we have that revenue line of membership sales that we would be able to reinvest into the different amenities and into the clubhouse that we would be proud of, and to be able to have a sustainable business model.
It sounds like you're really taking a data-driven approach approach in terms of all the brands that you worked with before to your entrepreneurship journey and now with where you're working and, you're heading the renovation? Why does it need to be so closely tied to renovations or to brand revitalization?
Because you can't keep throwing good money after bad. The return on investment is directly related to the health of a business. So when you're taking a look at, you might personally, let's call it, like to swim, and like, I'm going to make the swimming pool the best thing ever, but that's the most underutilized space. And when you do any kind of surveys and you really ask the folks, what do you want? And they're like, I really would love to see pickleball come on board, or I'd really like to see our ballroom updated so we could host more weddings, or I would bring in my family reunion or whatnot. But if you're as a business is like, but no, I'm going to do the pool thing, and ignore all of that data, all of the customer feedback, you have a pretty area, but it doesn't do anything to bring in new sales. It doesn't do anything to even enhance or keep people from a retention standpoint, because you haven't fulfilled anything that they've really been asking for and the business needs. Data has to drive absolutely everything you do. And you also have to look at it when you make a decision and monitor that data just to make sure you're following trends and you're making sure that if that trend line isn't where you thought it was going to be, where do you need to tweak that in order to make sure that you're really getting back the maximum ROI on that? And do you have to make a turn or a little bit of a change to what you originally planned? And the answer to that is you're always doing that. It's never static. You're always tweaking.
What I'm hearing you saying is that you're really in touch with your target demographic,
Yes.
right? And your avatar. Is that right?
You absolutely have to be. Everything I do is driven by that avatar, including because I also do a lot of the social media and the marketing, because we're a very small club. So wear a lot of hats. So I get to see the full picture of the business. And when I first came into the business, the marketing that they were doing, it looked like you just took spaghetti and threw it to the wall. Like, we're going to have an event, put it in the paper, without ever thinking about, well, the creative and what is the story that you're trying to tell? And then how does that story evolve? And so when you really start to look at who's in your area and then what areas you want to expand to, then you really start to understand the messaging. And also, again, going back to renovation and back to events and activities, you understand what you have to build, because that is what I also have to do for member experience, is really building things where it's beyond what we always did, because sometimes, well, it worked in the past. It's like, well, that's wonderful, but what's the next step to it? Because we joke around that Briarwood was food, booze, and music. Nothing wrong with that. It's a country club. It's supposed to be a social experience, but how do you add to that? So as an example, this past New Year's Eve, I had some pushback because everyone's like, what do you mean we're not just having a band and dinner? So no, we're actually going to have dueling pianos, a casino night, and dinner. And everyone wasn't sure, but it turned out that it actually was a huge success, because a lot of our members, again, being a little bit older demographic, have lost spouses. So sometimes parties like that, they always feel like, well, I don't want to sit there and and it's like it's geared to couples, where this, like, if you didn't want to dance or do that, you could go gamble. It was much more of a mingling type of experience, because we're formulating what's called the one family experience. So you don't have cliques of people, because we've noticed in the data that when people become engaged and they're volunteering and they're coming to more events, they're meeting more people. It's just not the 4 people that they walk in the room with, that our retention rates skyrocket. And then with that, they'll bring people in by referrals, because when you get referrals, that is the best sales technique that you can ever ask.
Yeah, it's a domino effect. Whenever somebody approaches me and says, okay, let's do a design, and they're ready to jump into it, I'm like, wait, we're not jumping into anything before we have data. The data has to inform what we're doing. Otherwise, you're spending money aimlessly, and maybe we're leaving money on the table where you can add an amenity or you can add a revenue stream that can make sure that you have the maximum ROI. And it sounds like that is what you're doing, that you're refusing to just, whether it's an event or marketing or a renovation, that you refuse to just run with it and rather need to make an informed decision.
Absolutely. Like, as an example too, the pickleball that we're going to be introducing. Now, everyone knows, maybe not everyone, but it is very, very popular and it's growing in popularity. Okay, but that's trend data. And if you look around Sun City West and our surrounding areas, you're like, okay, let's do that. But it goes deeper than just saying, okay, we're going to put pickleball courts out. You really have to take a look at how many pickleball courts are in the area. Is it saturated? No, do we have room? Like, are people having trouble getting court times? No, are there tournaments available? Like, all the different things that real pickleballers are looking for, can we offer it? And is there other ways that we can utilize that space that's not just pickleball? So we found out with some research that there's a new trend called red ball. Red ball is a type of modified tennis with a shorter racket and a bigger ball. But with folks that are a little bit older, it's a little bit slower of a game. So not only do we have now pickleball, but now we're actually able to offer something else. So now our space has dual capabilities, and now we can do a bigger and expansive audience, and we can do instruction, because Red Ball is like, what is that? Bring in instructors, do classes, have special events. So all of a sudden that space comes from just, well, we're doing it because everybody's doing it, to we're doing it because they can't get court times. It is still growing in popularity. Plus it has a dual purpose with this brand new up and coming, and will be one of the first facilities around the area that's actually going to be carrying Red Ball and educating people around it.
I love that. You're really setting yourself ahead of the competition, because there's constantly competitors popping up. But when you're proactively on top of trends in the market, new things that are coming up, I know you mentioned previously that you're wanting to have additional, a broader range of demographics coming to your club, right? You're doing the research necessary to make informed decisions with how to create that space that will attract and keep them there.
It's truly an exciting thing. And the biggest thing I take away, it's networking. Because again, I don't say no to folks. If folks like, I would like to pitch you an idea. Now, again, if it doesn't fit with who we are, what we are, because you got to protect your time, as everyone, all professionals know, because no is a one-word answer. But you also have to be open-minded, because like the Red Ball, I have a relationship with our car club, because we're going to bring the community in. We're going to do a classic car show. We're bringing in like tribute. Yeah. Just to get folks to know that we're there. But when talking to him, because I built such a good relationship with him, he was the one who kind of started talking to me about it. And he's like, can I talk to you? I'm like, absolutely. So we sat down. Come to find out, he's the actual ambassador in our state. And he also has the ability to get us equipment for no charge, because they're trying to grow this within the area. So taking those meetings and building those relationships with folks and really kind of diving in. And he showed me, again, all the statistics of where this is growing, what it's doing, and who is really starting to gravitate toward that. So when my older folks say, I can't do pickleball, I have a solution for them. But I even have a bigger draw in when I do marketing outside of that demographic that's a little bit older, so I can go further out, because pickleball is definitely something that folks are looking at. Where can I get on and not have to fight people? And for us being a private country club, you would have first right of refusal. You're not fighting the public for, 10 court spaces.
Yeah. And then in addition, they have all these other amenities where they finish pickleball and they can go have a drink or, be at the restaurant. That's so cool that you're building this hub, this community, to really create a sacred space for everybody that comes there.
It's really fun. We call it planned spaces. So what do you mean by that? Because it's actually very strategically planned out areas or zones that people can gather. So no matter what it is, because you don't want to cater, because again, prior to me coming, bridge, mahjong, a lot of those card games, which a lot of our older members, very diehard, they have been our biggest supporters. So we want to make sure that they do have card space and it's inviting and whatnot. But we also want to make sure for our golfers, as an example, because that is from a revenue line, that membership is quite a big portion of our revenue, and also from a bottom line standpoint. So when we did the fitness studio, it's like, well, we could do chair yoga and we can do, some of that. But what we found out is when we introduced what's called a TRX system, is like suspension training for golf mobility, for strength and golf. There's all kinds of different ways, but we have a couple different classes. And we found out that those, which we were surprised, now the survey said they wanted it. So we tried it, most popular classes we have. So we got beyond the just catering to, the folks who are a little bit older, like with the chair yoga, which is popular, don't get me wrong. But we were able to engage folks that maybe just would come in for golf, have a drink and leave, and don't get involved at all, to actually starting to engage into other parts of the club. And then when I do that, I'm able to go in and invite them. Hey, did you know that we had an a cappella group last night from Yale University come in and sing to our members? Something we've never done before. Smaller crowd, but everyone's like, holy cow, that was so different. Now you have a slow burn and we're making noise and folks are knowing, wow, something's really different here.
That's incredible. Are you seeing that all the amenities, all the events, and the additional things that you're offering, does that directly tie into a higher revenue, or is that higher revenue because people are staying, longer and bringing other people?
It's actually all of the above. So what it's really doing for us is growing that top line revenue, because we've evolved in terms of what our membership sales and what we're offering is doing. So because of all the different amenities, we used to have all these different different membership structures. Like you can get this membership for here. And it was just a mess trying to keep track of. So we've gotten it down to a social membership and a golf membership. And so everyone who was on that lower golf membership, which we created to kind of save the club because we just needed bodies in the door to be completely transparent. But once we got there, we started to prove out that we have one of the best golf courses in the area. And then all these things started to come online, which includes, fine dining, restaurant, and music in the bar every Friday. That when we said it's going to go here and we're only going to have that premier membership, we found they're like, you know what? It's $300 more a month. No brainer. The amount of folks that stepped up because they're like, this is our family now. And I want to pay to be a part of the family, and all of those things justified the fact that extra money was worth it. But really, again, back to the relationships. The relationships are what really drives that revenue. And also because it's a membership line, it goes directly to the bottom line because there's no real cogs involved with that, because it's just you pay every month to be there. Really. So
recurring revenue. Yeah,
exactly. And then recurring revenue. And then you're bringing in more folks into the restaurants. So your food and beverage goes up. Then you're bringing more people to events. Our events are up 30%. So where we were averaging, maybe 40, now we're averaging, for one event, it could be up to 75 to 100. Our July 4th, as an example, we normally have about 150. We had 225, which we had to cap off. That is our maximum we can fit in our ballroom. So that's the exciting part, is that we're definitely seeing the interest, in all these things we're doing, and it's showing in number of members, the number of upgrades, and the number of referrals.
Wow, that's awesome. And when you streamline it, it just makes everything so much easier and simpler on the guest experience end of things, so they can see that no-brainer.
And also from a marketing perspective, because your messaging, when you're trying to well, how much does it cost? And you have to go, if you want this, it's this, you want this. And then you just have deer in the headlights because it's so much information that nobody acts. It's kind of like the Cheesecake Factory. Sometimes you get this book of a menu and you look through it and you end up ordering the exact same thing you always order because it's all overwhelming and you don't want to look through all of this. So that was what we were dealing with. And now we're at a point where it's just simple, golf, social.
Love it.
We can communicate very simply, and they can communicate it to their friends without having to come see me or to, basically take out their notepad to read exactly what it is for them.
I think that's a message for all of us, to simplify, pricing and offer. The simpler, the less the customer, the guest need to think through things, the easier, the less friction there is, the easier the purchase is going to be ultimately.
You want to make it a no-brainer, where it's like the price is at a point where you don't want to make it too cheap because that's like, well, what's the catch? And again, when we had to get bodies in the door, we were at a little bit in that bracket, but we did that intentionally because of just the state of what we knew we had to build to. But you want to make it at a price point where you're like, okay, that's a little pricey, but when you look at everything you get, it's actually not bad, and it does seem like a value. It's like, well, this is everything we're looking for. And the price is, kind of what I expected. And you go from there, but you're too low. You get folks going, what's wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I had a place that had all of the amenities that you shared, that you're bringing online there and that you already have in place, I would totally go there rather than just going for a fitness, right? A gym or whatever. You're spending at least part of that amount. Why not already just go somewhere where you have all of the things that you'd want in one place, plus a community?
And also just, from a renovation perspective, timing matters. So to really, really think about, we want to do all these things, we're stair-stepping that because I want to always have new news. You want to really, okay, hey, fitness studio's on. I had a whole grand opening. I had the Chamber of Commerce come in, paper, did press releases. Now that's exciting. Now that's going. And now you have news and we have video to be able to go, look at how cool this is. And then you wait a month, 2 months, depending on the business model. Then you introduce the next plan space. It's like, oh, arts and crafts, look at all these. We're doing paint and sips and cooking classes and mixology and all of this. And again, it just hadn't PR, just hit the newspaper. So now, again, a couple months later, now we're going to do pickleball, and then we're going to renovate the restaurant, and then we're going to renovate the actual pool house because it's going to become a full-fledged gym, not just a studio. So being able to do that is the excitement. It's the buzz that you're creating, not only amongst, oh, what's coming next? And they're excited to be part of it, but the outside communities, kind of looking in and going, wait, what's going on over there? And that's what we're looking for. And in fact, we're even going to do some openings to the public, like once a month, just to kind of give like a sample, like in the restaurant, maybe even a Friday night, 'cause we do music every Friday, just to give them a sampler so they can see what we're all about. So that's like the community car show. We do a farmer's market so we can, because again, 115 degrees in the summer here. And so it gives small businesses the chance to not have to close down for 3 months, that they actually come inside our ballroom, and it brings the community in. So it's a way to, like I said, really work with the community, network with those folks, and be kind of a champion of your community and offer space. And also it's news. Again, hey, the farmer's market's here. Social media, all of that. Look at, vendors, the bread guy's there. You got to come over because he's the best sourdough on the planet. Why aren't you here? Kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
I love that. You're thinking through all the different touch points of the customer journey. And we see that with the iPhones, right? That they will slow release things, right? They're not going to release everything at once. They need to tease you, and every new version is just a little bit better than the other one, but everybody feels like they need to have it. And then also we understand in marketing and sales about the touch points in the customer journey that you need to have a certain number. I think the number keeps on going up and up. It was like 7 to 10 before, and now it's like 15 to 20. I don't know what the numbers are, but
actually I think it's closer to like 27 to 30 now.
Oh, there you go.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so like the newspaper and the press, like all the stuff that you're doing and the time that they come to the ballroom, these are each touch points in the customer journey that will then drive more business to you. So I love that you're thinking through this very, very holistically. When we design, I highly encourage my clients. We bring on ROI advisors, and I highly recommend that they bring on any additional consultants that are necessary to come up with this holistic view, because I never like to just go in and say, here's the design amount. My goal is to help you increase the revenue. And to do that, we need to make sure that we have all the ingredients to make that recipe happen. And design is just one of those ingredients. It's a major ingredient, but it is the product. It is the product that you're selling, but it's not the only ingredient in making sure that you're, maximizing the increase of revenue.
Absolutely. And design is important, because it's one of the funnest things that I see is when folks have not been in the club. They've been members years ago. Now, all of a sudden they're hearing what's going on and they come back in. And when they walk in, they're like, wow, that's everything. Because what a difference. I mean, even our lobby area, because we were originally 1982 when we officially kind of broke ground. 84 is when we opened the clubhouse and all of that. So there wasn't a lot that changed. It was very traditional. It was very those heavy woods, very 80s, just inspired. I mean, if you like that, it's very traditional. And you don't want to get rid of all that, because in a country club, because tradition, there is a place for that. But you have to do it with a modern twist, and you need to be able to make sure that folks don't see like, wow, when's the last time you changed that carpet, or when's the last time you changed that paint color? And Briarwood had fallen into that for years, just because they weren't looking forward. It was always what they had to do to survive in that moment. So once they decided and turned that corner, that's really when everything changed. And I'm so thrilled I got to be part of that. And when I give tours, I walk people around, they're like, this is so nice. And then I explain, I'm like, well, wait till this, and this. I go, when we add the coffee bar, so we have a breakfast offering. So now I have food in all day parts. Like, really? I'm like, yeah, it might not be anything huge, but it's again, another talking point, and it opens up another revenue line that you might just even have Keurig, some burritos, but that's everything. And it's news, and it's something we've never in our history had before. And our members get excited for even just those little tweaks.
Yeah, absolutely. People get excited when it's fresh. And I love what you said in terms of like backwards facing versus forwards facing. I found, and maybe you can share some insights on this, that there are no stats on forward facing metrics. All the metrics are backwards facing: occupancy, ADR, whatever those metrics are. Looking at the revenue, it's very, very hard to track and quantify what kind of renovations are going to increase revenue, and how it's kind of like a guessing game without the data, right? If you don't have somebody like yourself, which is very rare, by the way, to look through and understand and do the market research to figure out what's needed, it's a gamble at the end of the day. It's a liability. Design becomes a liability rather than the asset in the business to help make sure that it grows.
And you have to be able to recognize that not all choices are going to be right, and being humble enough to go, okay, we need to tweak that. But the biggest thing with forward thinking, because it's literally a shot in the dark. When our new owners came in and they said, okay, project this. And I said, well, I don't even really have any run rates for me to be able to take data. I'm giving you a shot in the dark from what I just know from my experience. But really what it comes down to, and I keep going back to this, it's listening. So if you're out in the community, if, like I said, with our farmers market, so I have the business community in there, going to all these different networking events, sponsoring things, going to the pickleball, big pickleball drop for, it's actually pretty impressive. But you're out there talking with folks, and they know you're supporting that. And just what I do a lot of times, especially on a Friday or when we have events, I table touch. I'm visible. So I walk around and I talk to people. What'd you think of this? They're like, oh, we kind of think the lobby looks like a Best Western. They're like, but we love the fireplace. But then if you ask folks who come in that aren't, because again, change is hard, but new folks come in and they're like, this is beautiful. It's just state of the art, a little bit more streamlined type of things, but it's different perspectives, and being able to balance those perspectives understands what then that future design needs to really look like. And then you see less and less tweaks have to happen as you really get into it.
With each iteration, with each next step that you do, with each new rollout, it gets better and better, especially since you have that real-time data. Like yes. I also love going and speaking to people and understanding what specifically works, what specifically doesn't work, how can we make an adjustment. And that is really where we've built out a PLP, profit lift potential, right? That forward-facing crystal ball of like, what kind of design is going to create what kind of lift? What's the potential? Because you can't know otherwise without having that data. And that part of that is looking at what's working in other properties. What does the community want? I would love to know from you, how quickly are you seeing payback on the investment that you've made? Is it clear? Are you seeing that it's going to take a long time? What does that look like?
It's going to take a little bit of time, because what we're battling is a little bit of attrition, because that's why we have to go out of where we're at. And when I say attrition, we have an older clientele, so I'm losing folks. That's the hardest part of my job, is when I come in and, please cancel so-and-so's membership because they passed, and whatnot. So we're battling a little bit of that. So that is where it's, I think, going to take a little bit longer. I think the upgrades with the golf, that is going to help us get a little bit closer. Last quarter, we sold 22 new social memberships, which was a record. So we have never done that. We were averaging 7 or 8, and sometimes in summer, it's even less, obviously, because we have snowbirds here. But the fact that we're seeing, we had that kind of acceleration in membership sales, and that first space that got remodeled was October. So it was that fourth quarter, and we broke sales records. So I'm already 5 days, or where am I at? The 7th. I've already sold 2 memberships in the first week of the new year. And that's, trying to do all the transition, and folks are coming in. And I have all kinds of folks that are inquiring about it. And I know on the golf side of it, it's happening as well. And we're doing all kinds of programming. So again, with referrals, so new homeowner, if you come on in, 3-month free social membership just to check us out. So I want to get rid of all the barriers. We're also, if you bring a friend and they sign up, you get free dues for a month. So we're trying to incentivize, not even having to pay out in terms of like physical outside advertising, just utilizing our membership and our realtor base within the community to be able to really grassroots grow some of that. And we're seeing some huge uptick in momentum. I'm actually ecstatic about it.
Wow, that is so cool. What would you attribute that most to? What does that tie into? What do you think is the reason for that?
We're listening, because that's what I hear over and over again is forever. Because if you ask, a chef or anybody, what keeps you up at night, or what is your biggest pet peeve, or what bothers you? And it was the fact that our members, some of which have been with us for 40 years, screaming from the rafters, if you could just do A, B, and C, but we would do D, E, and F. And then they would get frustrated. So what they're seeing is the fact, and there's motion, there's change. And it's because of what they've been asking for years. That's crucial. And they're seeing like, wow, this party, there's something different. It's just a different energy. Because I believe in that. If you can change the energy where everything was so negative and we're going to lose our club and we're getting sold, where in reality, even though the members don't have to worry about it anymore, it's taken over by folks like myself and the new ownership and our new team to really revitalize with new ideas and do exactly what they're looking for. And they don't have to worry about it because they know we're financially sound now.
Wow. It's so powerful. What was the biggest lesson that you've learned coming on and doing all the renovations that you have? How long have you been there for now?
Coming up on 3 years.
Over the last 3 years, what has been like the biggest learning, the biggest takeaway, maybe a challenge that kind of changed the way that you see things?
The biggest challenge is personality differences. So you have to learn to be able to listen to folks and make sure that they're heard, because there were so many people screaming at each other and not talking to each other. And when that was happening, it was just pure chaos. And we had a lot of turnover. Things got delayed. There was misinterpretations. There's hurt feelings. And I know that's not, business talk, but that's real talk. But what can derail anything very quickly is not understanding that there's introverts, extroverts, the way to talk to people. If you really pay attention to somebody and realize that they just need you to listen and give feedback, you don't jump in because they won't respond to that. Or if someone, they might be a yeller, and if you can match them, they're like, all right, because they know that they can can go, and have a conversation, your feelings don't get hurt. So you just have to really pay attention to, I know everyone's taking a personality test, but if you have a team and really understand everyone's different communication styles and can talk to their communication style, that's where you're going to make progress. And for a long time, we weren't doing that. And it was just talking over each other. And I'll be honest, and there's still some of that, don't get me wrong, but it was a mess and it was chaos. It was this person's finger pointing. You got to take accountability. You need to take responsibility and run with it. And just really, you got to have a team and you got to just embrace each other. And everyone has different ideas, no matter who you are, how old you are, your experience level, everyone brings something to the table, and be respectful.
Yeah. Behind the scenes is just as, if not maybe a little more important than what's happening at the front end, because you can't have success at the front end if the team is falling apart on the back end.
That's right. And that's, like I said, that was probably the biggest pain point. They tried so many different, because they were knee jerking, so many different things. Well, that didn't work. We'll do this, without really thinking it through. They're just throwing stuff. Like I said, with the marketing, what they were doing, it wasn't just the marketing. There was no strategy. It was just tactics that maybe this will work. And they would do it. And why didn't that work? Like, because that wasn't that was so short term. This problem didn't occur in a month. This has been a long stem problem that's been accumulating over years and years and years. And you do not fix that by a short-term solution. You got to get to the root of really what's causing the problem. And yes, it's going to be, what you offer and all those sort of things. But what is at the root of why we're not getting to where someone walks in and goes, wow, it's because you're not having the conversation and delivering on the wow.
Oftentimes in the midst of construction, and they'll say, my team isn't listening, or, I want you to take over. And I'm like, they're in the throes of the contract. You're asking for this finish and that, and can you have it to us next week or yesterday? And I say, no, you're going to have to pause construction. All the people, all the trades that are currently running, everybody needs to take a pause, a timeout, and we need to reassess. Because the reason why it didn't work is because there was no strategy, or because the strategy didn't work for your specific project. And I think that is the key differentiator of what you do, what I do, is strategy. If you don't have that, if you don't have the data, if you don't have the plan, you can throw spaghetti at the wall from here until tomorrow, but it's a gamble. You have no idea what's going to work and what's not.
And you won't have results that are going to stick. It's like you might see a short-term bump and everyone's like, yay. And then all of a sudden, wait, what happened? It was working. It's like, again, short-term thinking. It's like, yeah, because it was something different and everyone was curious and they checked it out and realized, yeah, that's nothing of what we really want. And then right back down on the bell curve, you're done.
Amazing. This conversation was so good, so full of wisdom from your perspective and on the back end of things. Can you leave our audience with 3 tips? If their club is struggling, or their hotel or short-term rental, whatever the hospitality is, whatever the market is, can you share with our audience your 3 top tips for revitalizing their business so that they can thrive?
First thing is know where you're at. So really take a look around to make an assessment. You have to have a baseline, like to really understand, like, where are you? So you have something to compare it to, and you're not in getting to the root causes of why you are at that baseline. And once you understand exactly what that is, then the mountain that you have to climb, the second thing you have to do is listen. And that is surveys. That is, like I said, going out and having physical conversations, picking up the phone and really understanding and getting into the community to see what everybody else is doing. So you have to do your research and see, like, is what everyone's telling me, is that really lining up with what I'm seeing in the marketplace and what I'm seeing in the data? And the number one thing is you definitely have to network. So as an example, I'm part of the Club Management Association. Get into your industry, understand best practices. You don't have to recreate the wheel because someone has probably thought of it in some form or dimension. Take a look at what they're doing while you understand your baseline, while you understand your goals, when you understand what your contingency is looking for, look at what those are, analyze the data, and then make a strategic plan with your team to follow through with execution in a timeline that makes sense, within a budget that makes sense, so you can maximize your ROI.
Love it. Thank you so much, Michele. What a jam-packed episode. I can't wait to share it with our audience. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, how can they do so?
You can send me an email at Michele, which is with the 1 L, Michele, at michelemalo.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We'll put the information in the show notes.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now.